Now, here we are. Good. We're back. We're back. We're recording. Recording. Please don't give up. Thank you not for giving up. Here we are. That's the whole idea of that what it means, Parsha Zachor. It's what's the connection to Yud Aleph Adar. When the Rebbe spoke this speech, it was Yud Aleph Adar, 2 days before we read it. We're reading on Yud Daled Adar, 3 days before. Yud Daled Adar. There we go. Yud Daled Adar. It says, anyways, the Rebbe is Yud Aleph. The thing about Yud Aleph, the Rebbe spoke about it before, is that Yud Aleph, according to the Mishnah, is the earliest time that the Megillah can be read. It used to be in the time when Jewish people weren't so mobile as they are now, that the people would only come into the market, into the city where they were reading the Torah and the Megillah. They would come in only on the market days. And therefore, sometimes the market days would be on Monday and Thursday. They were coming. So therefore, sometimes it could be that if Purim fell on a day which was not a market day, so the people, and they made a special decree that the people in the outlying areas outside of the cities, when they came into the market day, which would be the 11th or the 12th or the 13th, according to when it was, that they could read the Megillah. So technically, the Megillah can be read on the 11th. That's the earliest time. Okay. On the second, it says, there's a sentence in the Torah. It says, Ki yad al case yudke, milchama laHashem ba'amalek. It's right at the end of part of the book of the chapter of Bashalach. I'm sorry, Bashalach, in the book of Exodus, right in the end where the Jews went over the sea. So right at the end of that, Amalek attacks the Jewish people, and Moses makes a war against Amalek. And it says that the hand of God is on. Is the hand of God is raised on his throne, that he's going to make a war with Amalek. God will, and that's what we read the Torah on Purim. That's what we're reading the Torah on Purim. On the Purim in the daytime, we read this. Shall love that on it. The rabbis say, "She'ein shemo," that the name of God is not complete until is wiped out Amalek. What is the name of God? It's explained in a lot of places that Amalek is a nation, a people, a feeling inside of us as well, that it covers over the name of God. Especially the first two letters. It says case Yudke. It says God's throne is not complete. Kisei, and the God's name is not complete, which God's name is Yudke Bavke. So the thing of Amalek is that it covers over the name of God. It splits the name of God into two. Kisoi, God of Helam on Yudke, that it shouldn't be drawn down into Vavke. What does it mean? What does this mean? Let me just say it because there's all these electrical shortages are coming out. So just what we're about to learn. Sometimes a person can have wonderful ideas in his mind and be intellectually stimulated by God and by the Torah and by Judaism in his mind. That's the first two letters of God's name. We're made in God's image. Yud is Chachma and Hey is Bina. Yud means to have a proper concept of what God is. And Hey is the letter Hey is the proper understanding of what God is. But it doesn't come into action. It doesn't come into action. A person knows what's right, but he doesn't do it. Either he gets intimidated, he gets scared by what people will say, or he gets scared, or he has lust, and lust drives him, money drives him crazy, or other things make him crazy. But nevertheless, the ideas are there, and he can explain to other people why it's wrong to do what he himself is doing. That's what Amalek does. Amalek splits between the Yudke. All right. Each and every Jew, let's see, let me do this here. Sorry for all these delays. This is just really pretty maddening, but I'm succeeding not getting mad, which is pretty unusual. I guess I realized after so many years that it doesn't help. On the pasuk it says, okay, here we go. So what does this mean? That Amalek separates between the name of God, the first two letters and the last two letters. In every single Jew, yesh dalet otiot, there is in the name of God. That's what it means. Man is created in the image of God. That's every human being. But more exactly, every Jew is called the son of God. So this is even more. We're made in the image, even a deeper image of God. Like it says, Ki chelik Hashem amo, like it says, a portion of God is his people. Chelik mishem Hashem. The Jewish people are a portion of God's name. Portion of God's name. Like it says, that man, when God made the first man, and everyone was supposed to be Jews, that God blew into his nostrils a living life, a living soul. Man the nafach mitoch nafach, that God created all the other animals together complete. But when he created man complete. And then afterwards, he did an additional thing, and he blew into his nostrils a living soul. That's called the Jewish soul. That's the godly soul. And this soul became lost. When Adam ate from the tree, it became lost until about 2,000 years ago came along Abraham. And Abraham was the one who reinstated it only in his people, only in the Jews. And not only all the Jews, only in Yitzchak, his son, not in Ishmael. And Yitzchak also not in all of his sons, only in Yaakov. That's why we're called Bnei Yisrael. That's the son. So it says, Chelik Hashem, and every single Jew is a portion of God. Chelik Elokam Yimal Mamash. Every single Jew is a part of God really in the world. Chelik Mina, it's a part of the essence of God. Asher Kasha'ata Tofes, that if you grab a little bit, you grab the whole thing. And therefore, so every Jew is like a toe of God, a fingernail of God, whatever you want. But nevertheless, when you take every part of a Jew is like the part of God. Therefore, yesh bo, in every single Jew, there in his soul is what's 4 letters of the name of God. Okay, now of course every Jews are regular people and they get excited about mundane things, about money and basketball games and things like everybody else does. But that's the natural soul. Every Jew has an additional soul. That's what was blown into this month. And they get excited about God. They get excited about, when we're talking about going to heaven, that's part of your selfish self. We're not talking about spiritual. That's also selfish stuff. We're talking about being totally devoted to the creator of the universe. Every Jew feels it, just like normal people are crazy about money, as the Jewish soul is crazy about God. This is divided into 2. The name of God, which is in every Jew, is in 2 types. The Nistros Lashem Elokeinu, the first 2 letters of God's name, that's the Yud Hey. And the second is that refers to the Chila V'Rachimo, the B'mocha B'libo. This is referring to the Yud and the Hey of God's name, which is concealed in the brain and in the heart to love God. Al Yadei, by means of Hidbonanut, by thinking about how great God is, then that comes to realize the truth, who you really are. Vidgalut Libo, and revealing the essence of your soul also. That's the brain. And then the Vavhe, that's the revelation. These are the hidden ones. Your hidden love and your hidden the hidden love and your hidden fear for the essence of God. And then there's Vavhe. Vavhe is what's revealed. This refers to actually serving God in learning Torah and doing the commandments. Some places it's explained a little bit differently, but that's so the Vavhe is serving God, actually doing, saying, thinking about God, doing what God wants. And the Yud-He is talking about being aware of God, connection to God, having a deep inner natural love of God. Okay, so sometimes it can be separated. Here we go, separated. And that's what Amalek does. Amalek is really good at it, and God created it for that reason. He's very good. The whole thing of Amalek is the whole thing of Amalek is Malek At Rosh, Malak means to cut off. La'afrid, Malika is the La'afrid, to separate between the Yud Hey in our soul, in other words, the awareness of God and the appreciation of God, to the Vave, which means the actually doing what God wants. That's the Vave. That's the Nistros, that's the concealed aspect, the Idbonon B'Gdolas Hashem, thinking about the greatness of Hashem in your brain and arousing love and fear in the depths of your heart, that it shouldn't be drawn down into your actual doing in the world. And there's, simply speaking, you can have even a religious, there's two ways. But let's take the most common one, the religious Jew that does all the commandments, but he does it cold. He does it because his father did it. He does it because the rabbi did it, because it's a Jewish identity. He does it because there's pro-Palestinian marches outside, and he says, no, I am going to show them, and so I'm going to do them. But he's not doing it because of his connection to God. His connection to God is cold. He forgot about it. That's what a mulek does. It makes you forget it, and it makes you cold. The zeal winning, that's what it means. You have to wipe out a mulek in the service of man. She'id gala, you have to reveal the name of God completely in your soul. In other words, be who you really are. Al Yadezeh, by means of this, she'ein hefsek bein anistros, there's no separation between Yud Hey and the Niglos Vav Hey. She'anistros, that the concealment, namely your inner connection to God, will be drawn into your day-to-day life, into how you serve God in a regular way. That you won't be Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, whatever it is. On one hand, you can analyze everything, and you know about godliness, you know about Judaism, and you know about all this wonderful history of Judaism. But you're not excited. And you could be that you even do the commandments, but you're not excited. And the name of the game is to be excited. That's what a mulek does not want. A mulek cools you off. He cools you off. That's the whole thing. To be cold to God, to be unenthusiastic. You do Judaism for some external reason, but not because it comes from the essence of your soul. That's not your real, deep, true identity to be attached to God. And that's also hinted at in the time when you read the Megillah. When do you read the Megillah? From the 11th day of the month until the 15th day of the month. Those are the times when the Megillah technically can be read. It says in the Shalah, the 11th, right? So it says in the Shalah is the Shnei Luchot Abrit, which was written by a man called Yeshaya Horowitz, about something like what? 400 years ago, something. That he's buried in Tiberias. The Yud Aleph, this is the number of the letters of Vav Hey in the name God, in God's name. Vav and Hey, Vav is 6, Hey is 5, 11. And Tet Vav, that's the earliest time that the Megillah can be read. And the latest time the Megillah can be read is on the 15th. The 15th, that is the numerical value of Yud Hey, the first two letters of God's name. So we have Yud Aleph, that's when the Megillah, earliest time it can be read. That's the second letters, the last letters of God's name. And the latest time the Megillah can be read is on Yud, the 15th. So that's the two letters of God's name, Yud Hey and Vav Hey. That's the Megillah is read on the Yud Hey and etc. until the 15th, from the 11th to the 15th. The remez to hint at Sheshlemus, the point that the completion of Purim, that the Jewish people did what God said, is in a way of Shenakudat Yadut, the inner point of Judaism, Koach Emunah, the inner power of faith and self-sacrifice, which is above understanding. That's the Yud Hey. Choderet, it permeates, Umeira, and it shines also in the Vav Hey. The Vav Hey, that's 11. Ba'avoda b'poel, in other words, it's brought into actual service of God. And this is the Yud Hey, in the brain and the heart. So it comes down, shines, Beseder Masuda, so therefore your inner love of God and your Jewish identity that you're so proud of comes in an actual, to be revealed, an actual service of God, doing what God wants, saying what God wants, and even thinking what God wants, from easier to more difficult. In the beginning, we started on Yud Aleph. That's Vav Hey. That's doing things. just doing it without thinking about it, without understanding. And afterwards, you get higher and higher and higher. That means you have your brain and your heart together. Therefore, I want to suggest, before there's another electrical shortage, and that in all these marches that the Jews are doing now, which is a wonderful thing against the Hamas and against the pro-Palestinians and all this other nonsense that there is, that there should be someone that goes there and puts tefillin on people. That is the real, that's the real the combat, what is it, the weapon against Hamas and these. Because there's a sentence, you can look it down, write it down. There's a sentence in the book of Deuteronomy, and it's in chapter 32, sentence number 21. And it says over there that because you Jewish people have given yourself over to something which is not God, so I'm going to put you in the hands of someone that is not a nation. And that's the Palestinians. The Palestinians are not a nation. There's no nation, there never was a nation called Palestine. They never had a stamp or a government or an army or a motto or whatever it is, a flag. They never had anything. This is just the thing that came last with us 70 years, something like that. But there's never was. So there are no nation. They're a non-entity. And God has sent them to the Jews to wake the Jews up. So that's what we have to do, is to wake up. This is the story I'm going to tell everybody about the... Okay. Ooh, this is Moshiach to draw down the nistros, the concealment, the yud hey in your soul, your identity that you are a Jew and you're proud that you are a Jew. And you start thinking that the reason you're a Jew is because you're connected to God and you get excited about God. You draw that down, even the highest levels, the essence of the soul, the inner point of your Judaism, faith, self-sacrifice, which is above knowledge, logic, which is above even the concealments of your heart and your brain. Self-sacrifice means you're giving everything away, your brain and your heart. That this also should be shining in your day-to-day life, in your day-to-day service of God. And now we can also, that's the Yud Aleph, the 11th day, which that's the Vav Hey, should be permeated with the Yud Hey, which is the 15th. Those are the times when the Megillah can be read. The Yuva B'tos Festivus Beer, we can also add on to say, the greatness of Purim regarding the giving of the Torah. The giving of the Torah was only the beginning. And 900 years later, when the Jewish people did the holiday of Purim, it says that's when they really accepted the Torah. At first glance, it's a sentence in the end of the Megillah, right? Kimu v'kiblut. At first glance, how can it possibly be that at the time the Torah was given, when the Jewish people were in the ultimate highness, and they were close to God, and they saw God, and they saw God's miracles, that was only just the beginning of receiving the Torah? And in Purim, when they were in the worst, lowest situation, and then only then they all participated in the meal of Achashverosh, but the only one that didn't bow down to Haman was Mordechai. That's the lowest of the lows. That's when they received the Torah? How could it be? So it says the reason is like this. In fact, it's self-understood. The main and the complete idea, the reason why God gave the Torah is God wants us to do the Torah with such certainty and such self-assertion that it should not change. That's what we said, Amalek Korcha B'derech. He wants everything to be mikre, to be incidental, right? You forget. That's what we think we're remembering. You always have to be, has to be, and that's what the Torah should be, part of the essence of your soul. No matter what situation a Jew is, not just when he's in a situation of revealing God, but also in a situation of concealment and hidingness and difficulty, Yamud, a Jew, will stand in all of his power and doing the Torah and the commandments. Doesn't make any difference if he's in Auschwitz. In some ways, the time of Purim was even worse than Auschwitz in a lot of ways, because in Auschwitz, you didn't have any choice. You were stuck there. You could do whatever you wanted to, and they would kill you, right? It doesn't make any difference. You could deny your Judaism. You could assert your Judaism. It doesn't make any difference. You were a Jew, according to even the Nazi definition of a Jew, which also wasn't right. You had any sort of a Jew, your great-grandfather was a Jew, right? You have no choice. But in Purim, in a way, it was even worse. Because in Purim, they had a choice. In Purim, they had a choice. In Purim, in Auschwitz, you didn't have to assert yourself to be self-sacrificing as a Jew. That's why every Jew that died in the Holocaust, even if he was the most atheistic, communist, whatever Jew, in the world. He's holy because he died only because he was a Jew. Only because he was a Jew. But in Purim, they were given the chance not to be holy and not die. They were given the chance on Purim, say you're not Jewish and you'll live. And now every Jew could use their own free will to decide if he wants to be a Jew or not. So if you decide you're not a Jew, you get the biggest reward of all. You live. Huh? And if you decide I am a Jew, then you get the worst punishment of all. You die. Not only is your money taken away from you and your pleasure is taken away, your whole being is taken, you're killed. But the Jewish people didn't make those calculations. That's the whole point. They went above understanding. That means that your connection to God is eternal. No matter what, you're not going to leave it. Nothing will bribe you to deny your Judaism. That means it's constant all the time. Al Yidei Shemegala, that was revealed by the Jews, the essence of the soul, which was connected to the essence of God. Who? Okay. Oh yeah, sure. A lot of them are putting on tefillin. Okay, it's become all right, everyone. It just went off, but we went off at a good time this time. Okay,
What's going on?
there's a big storms over here, and at least where I am, and so there's lightning and thunders and rain with hail and everything, and so as a result, and I'm sure there's other things going on as well, because also in my house individually something went. We got an electrician over here, but every time anyway, so that's the story. So let's see what's going on over here. Now we'll do the Yom Yom, and maybe I'll tell you a story first. One second.